Hello everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips. And I usually start with a couple of announcements, and I'll do that today. So the first thing is, if you missed the microbiome workshop last weekend and you wish that you had participated, you're welcome to watch the videos online. I always create an online course after I teach the live course. So if you missed it and you're sorry you missed it and you'd like to do it, take the course. It'll be online very shortly, and you can email me if you want more information about it. Next one coming up, live course at the end of this month. Last weekend, I'm teaching an IBS, Irritable Bowel Syndrome boot camp, Friday night, Saturday afternoon, a total of 5.5 hours or so of classroom time. It translates to 4 or 5 lectures in the online version, but we do a Friday night, Saturday afternoon kind of boot camp style. People like that. It's concentrated, get through a lot of material really quickly. And then the one after that will be cannabis, the health benefits and detrimental effects of cannabis, so you can have the ability to make an informed decision about whether or not you want to use cannabis products and that sort of thing. So that'll finish up the live classes for this year. And at that point, I'll make an announcement about all the new stuff we're going to have for next year, because I'm creating some really exciting courses for next year too. The other thing that I'll tell you that's coming up November 8 through 10 is our conference here in Columbus, Ohio. And one of our guest speakers will be Tom Seyfried, who has written a book called Cancer as a Metabolic Disease. It is a cancer textbook. It's amazing. I think there are about 3,000 references in this book. It's a dense read, and it's a very expensive book. So you might want to come to Columbus and hear Dr. Seyfried talk instead of trying to wade through this book. But anyway, I was inspired to create the topic for today's video clip based on Dr. Seyfried and his work, and I think you'll see the connection in a minute here, because it has to do with cancer treatment in the United States, which, my gosh, there sure is a lot lacking. And some of you who have been cancer patients or who have had family members who are cancer patients know exactly what I'm talking about. So we'll get right to it here. According to an analysis prepared by Dr. Gilbert Welch and Dr. David Carr, about half of physician directors of National Cancer Institute designated cancer centers receive payments from industry. Now, I'm not very familiar with David Carr, but I do know a little bit about Dr. Gilbert Welch, who has written some marvelous books, written and co-authored some marvelous books about informed health decision making. He wrote a great book called Should I Get Tested for Cancer? Here's why. The answer is no, and here's why. And other such books that I think are really, really good. So I was not surprised to see his name on this analysis. So this is interesting. The data were drawn from the Open Payments database for the years 2015 through 2017. In 2017, there were 53 directors of these NCI-designated cancer centers, and they collectively got $4.42 million in payments. So why does this matter? Why should you care about it? Well, according to the authors, NCI-designated cancer centers have an enormous amount of influence on cancer care in the United States and the treatments that are promoted to patients, which that's true. These NCI cancer centers or a lot of times that's where the clinical trials are being done. These centers get a ton of money from taxpayers' dollars from the government, so it means that you and I are financing this kind of work. And so if there is a conflict of interest going on with industry and these directors, everybody suffers as a result of it. Cancer drugs are blockbusters, and they can make drug companies hundreds of billions of dollars. And so I'm not surprised that drug companies want to influence and provide money to center directors. I think it would be naive to think it's for altruistic purposes based on what we know about drug companies. These companies want to influence outcomes and opportunities, and it's evident if you take a look at what's going on in some of these centers that that's exactly what's going on. They meet their objectives. They spend their money well. So, for example, a vaccine developed in Cuba for lung cancer was approved by the FDA for a U.S. clinical trial. It's called Simivax, and it was designed to treat non-small cell lung cancer. It was introduced to the Cuban market in 2011, and the U.S. trial will involve a combination of this Cuban product and a checkpoint inhibitor that's made by Bristol Myers, and it's being conducted at Roswell Park, a powerful cancer center, research center that played a major role in deceiving the public about the efficacy of PSA testing for prostate cancer, so it has a rather colorful history. A Fox News station in Chicago reported concerning this vaccine, quote, "It's a medical breakthrough that could literally save millions of lives," and quoted Dr. Santosh Rao, of MD Anderson Cancer Center is saying, quote, that the vaccine has been shown to significantly increase life expectancy and is cheap and seems to be effective for a lot of patients. Now, that's medical speak for hardly worth talking about when it comes right down to it. A recent phase 3 trial showed that patients who were vaccinated lived for 12.43 months average as compared to 9.43 months for patients in the control group. An extra 3 months of life hardly sounds like a significant increase in life expectancy or some kind of amazing medical breakthrough that we should all be grateful to have access to. And I don't think that most cancer patients are asking or looking for 3 extra months of life. They're looking to live their whole lifespan, and this clearly is not the ticket. So having said that, I don't think that this will be fully disclosed to cancer patients if it ever is approved, and the cancer vaccine will be promoted as a big breakthrough. And I think it's appalling that precious and scarce research dollars and government funding is being used for this type of purpose. And then on top of all that, the drug companies are paying millions of dollars to the cancer center directors, hoping for even more influence. In the meantime, almost no money is invested in promising alternative treatments, such as the use of water fasting, which has been shown to weaken cancer cells and strengthen normal human cells. Dr. Alan Goldhammer and his colleagues at True North wrote a case report that got published in the British Medical Journal, which described the experience of a 42-year-old woman diagnosed with stage 3 follicular lymphoma. Now, follicular lymphoma does respond pretty well initially to traditional treatment, but the relapse rate is very high. And by the way, a lot of cancers are like this. The information and the outcomes are always great in the beginning. The tumor is shrinking, the markers are going down, and then 6 or 8 months or a year later, it's a totally different story. The cancer's back with a vengeance. Well, in this particular case, the patient underwent a 21-day supervised water-only fast, which resulted in significant reduction in the size of her lymph nodes, and then she maintained a low-fat, high-fiber, vegan, plant-based vegan diet. And at 6 and 9 month follow-up visits, there was further shrinkage in the lymph nodes. They were no longer palpable, and she remained asymptomatic. So when she wasn't fasting anymore, things continued to get better as a result of the diet. Well, now we get to Dr. Seyfried's book, which I showed you earlier, the guy who's one of the people, marvelous people who's speaking at our conference. This well-referenced textbook called Cancer as a Metabolic Disease proposes that it might be possible for some cancer patients to be treated as chronic patients. So very similar to the way we would treat type 1 diabetes. You can't get rid of it. We don't have any proven way to predictably reverse type 1 diabetes in diabetic patients. But a type 1 diabetic who takes good care of himself or herself can expect to live a full lifespan, keep all their body parts, and die with diabetes, but not from diabetes. And that's an important distinction. So in the book, Dr. Seyfried discusses strategies like water fasting. To my knowledge, when he wrote the book, he didn't know anything about Dr. Goldhammer, but the two of them met at a conference that I happened to be speaking at last year. Or earlier this year. So Dr. Seyfried discusses strategies like water fasting, calorie restriction, fasting to potentiate chemotherapy, where you fast before and potentially after to make the chemotherapy more effective in going after the cancer cells, and ketogenic diets for cancer treatment. During a presentation at one of our conferences, and I think it was in 2014 or 15 when he was here, he presented about a case report of a woman who had glioblastoma, which usually the death rate's very high and very fast. Very few of these patients even live for a year. And he was able to help this woman stay alive for 7.5 years with a ketogenic diet. Well, at this time, and I looked online after I found this original article about the money that's changing hands, I looked at the types of things that are being studied at these various cancer centers, and there aren't any of them that are investigating the effects of water fasting, plant-based eating, calorie restriction, fasting to potentiate chemotherapy. None of that's being investigated. It's all drugs. And the reason is there's just not a whole lot of money to be made. There's nothing to patent. I mean, what are you going to do? Patent some special type of water that potentiates water fasting? I mean, there's just no patent to come out of plant-based eating and water fasting. So I don't think anything is going to be done anytime soon to stop the practice of allowing drug companies to buy influence with either the government. I mean, this year, the FDA will receive $1.1 billion from drug companies. and what they call user fees to review their products. If that's not a conflict of interest, I don't know what is. And I don't think that anything's going to be done about these NCI-approved centers and their directors getting huge amounts of money from drug companies. But I do think things are gradually changing, mostly because bad actors and the bad things they do are getting a lot of attention. It's really hard to do stuff that's in secret anymore, good things and bad things. And so the more people find out about this, and this YouTube channel is one way that people find out. There are lots of people creating videos on YouTube, lots of articles, lots of books being written. So it is becoming increasingly harder for things to stay the same, for the status quo to be the way that it is. So I think more and more people are skeptical of medical advice and looking for outside the box treatments. And a lot of the ideas that Tom Seyfried discusses, I think you'd be really interested in hearing. So you can go online to our website, wellnessforumhealth.com, and take a look at our conference flyer. I'll be posting the agenda soon. And I think that this is just one of many, many fascinating people we'll be having at the conference to talk about a topic that I think is important to everybody. We all know people. I have family members and friends who've had cancer, and gosh, we've had so many members who've had cancer. This is an important issue and deserves a lot of attention. So one last thing I'll mention, if you're interested in a career and you're thinking that you'd like to be doing the type of work that we do here, pampopper@msn.com is my email address, and would be happy to talk to you about it. All right, as usual, hit that subscribe button if you're not a subscriber. The little bell, if you click on that, that'll send notifications to you when new videos are posted. And as usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it, and I'll be back to you on Thursday with more news.